And what a stage it's been so far. We were talking at the top of the programme that this could be a stage for the sprinters. We had a six-man move early in the day that stole a march on the peloton, containing young Theo Geoghegan-Hart. It had Charles Planet from Team Novo Nordisk. There was William Routley, who took the King of the Mountains point, so he'll be in the King of the Mountains jersey. Thomas Leeser from Belkin and United Healthcare's Hernandez Bolivar, but that has all changed. That group has been absorbed. And the crosswind section on the approach to Sacramento, the crosswinds have split the bunch asunder, and we have an elite group now at the head of affairs. 45 seconds is the lead with 38.4 kilometres to go. And the group contains Taylor Phinney, Greg Van Avermaet, Tom Bonen, Mark Cavendish, Mark Renshaw, Matteo Trentin, Luke Rowe, Sir Bradley Wiggins, Tour de France winner, of course, in 2012, and one of the outstanding and overwhelming favourite for this race, of course. We have two riders from Belkin Pro Cycling in there, one of them being Moreno Hofland, two riders from Team NetApp Endura also there, and those being the Aussie Zachary Dempster, or Zach, and Andreas Schillinger, the German, and a couple of riders also from Trek Factory Racing in there. So a very, very elite group of riders, all working very well. And Brian, this wasn't what we expected, but it's just great for the race. We didn't expect it to be torn asunder in such a fashion so early on.
No, this is fantastic. We could see it happening, and it's easy for us ex-professionals sat here in the commentary box commentating on it. It's a different story, you know, seeing it happen on our screens and being there. But I just noticed towards the back that Matt Goss is the Orica Green Edge rider at the back, and obviously he's got a fast sprint on him. Mark Cavendish just kind of swung out, and I think went back to talk to him because obviously they're former teammates. So it's it'll be interesting to see what happens. But again, this is one of the riders that are missing out, Peter Sagan. I think he's won about 10 stages of the Tour of California. So again, if he wants to try and win today, he's going to have to commit some riders towards the front. You can see the main peloton, they are still riding. The gap is still hovering about 40-45 seconds, but strong riders in front. They've proven that over the last kind of 10-15 kilometres, but we do have a few passengers towards the back now.
We certainly do. There's also a rider from Giant Shimano who we just need to name check in there.
Koen de Kort.
Koen de Kort, the Dutchman, more than happy riding on these sorts of roads, but the lead gradually increasing. There doesn't appear to be a lot of cohesion from behind. There's a few riders, United Healthcare, one of the teams who appear to be riding on the front, but no, doesn't appear that Sagan has got Cannondale to ride at the moment, which is quite interesting. I would imagine he might be looking at possibly further stages. Isn't here so much for the overall, but of course will be very disappointed, and as you correctly said, Brian, he is the rider who's won the most stages over the years, 10 stages overall over the past few years. Of course, this is the 9th running of the Amgen Tour of California, and it's the 8th time that Amgen have been the title sponsor, as Bradley Wiggins takes to the front yet again. I think between him and Tom Boone, Brian, they've been doing the most between them on the front.
Yeah, it does look like that way as Taylor Phinney comes up for BMC in the Reds. But again, there's a lot of pressure on a lot of these teams to deliver. Trek Factory Racing come towards the front in the black with the white sleeves. But it's all been Team Sky. It started this, obviously joining in Omega Pharma Quickstep. So interesting to see now that we've got maybe a bit more of kind of headwind now, if the teams in the peloton decide to put numbers towards the front to bring it back, because there's some strong guys in here that could take this all the way towards the finish. Definitely,
the aerial shot there that just does suggest there does appear to be a little bit more cohesion, but they are riding into a headwind. But please stay with us. We're going to head towards a commercial break. We'll see you in a few minutes. Eurosport, the home of cycling. Welcome back to stage 1 of the Tour of California, the Amgen Tour of California. Earlier on in the race, we had 6 riders that took a lead of around 4 minutes, but they were brought back after the couple of climbs we had midway through the race. But now on the flat and exposed run into Sacramento, that break was absorbed by a rampaging lead group of around 25 riders, which was split by the combined efforts of Team Sky and Omega Pharma Quickstep here at the head of affairs in the shape of Tom Bonen and Mark Cavendish. Matteo Trentin, of course, is also there. This lead group of around, 18 riders strong at one point, had a lead of 45 seconds, but now the peloton has finally got together and are starting to chase hard. The main rider in the bunch who's missed that one of the superstars that's missed that move was Peter Sagan. And there are a couple of other teams who have missed the move, but most of the World Tour teams are here. This break working very, very well together at the moment, notably Bradley Wiggins riding very, very hard at the front, and Tom Bonen. And there we have Greg Van Avermaet, the classic specialist, being followed by the young Taylor Phinney. So Bonen's there, Matteo Trentin, Mikel Urizar is also there, Stoyan is there, Bradley Wiggins and Luke Rowe complete the group. Of course, the Welshman, just see Bradley Wiggins riding through. But, Brian, surprisingly, that lead now down to 20 seconds. It was up to 45 seconds at one point. Who do you think's riding behind him? I mean, we didn't see Cannondale there. We haven't had a lot of close shots at the front of the group, but there certainly seems, from the aerial shots, that there is some cohesion behind.
Yeah, there must be. We come off the crosswind section into a bit more of a headwind section. Now we're seeing the front of the peloton, a lot of mixture of teams. We already mentioned that Garmin Sharp have missed out. BMC really wanting. We've had an accident at the back of the peloton. A couple of riders have been down. So yeah, a lot of pushing and shoving, touch of wheels and bang, down you come. So you see, I think it was Jonathan Waters trying to run up and help out there for the Garmin Sharp. So unfortunately for one of the Novo Nordisk team, he'll have to chase and try and get back on. But yeah, it's been all action over the last 15, 20 kilometres. Diego Machado's come here for NetApp Enduro to ride well. They have got two riders in the breakaway, Schillinger and Dempster, but again, they want to bring it back because they are here, not for stage wins, they're here for the overall. So you can see a lot of the teams now really driving the front of the peloton. Belkin are here, Garmin Sharp, NetApp Enduro are joining in the party, even the team of Giant Shimano.
So we're going to have a slow-mo of the crash here. But of course, these roads, these American roads, well, there's the crash just in the middle of the peloton near their lines there. A couple of riders tangled from Trek Factory Racing and Garmin Sharp, and a Novo Nordisk rider there, of course. But this happens, you can tell by those pine trees there. There isn't a great lot of wind, but when you have such exposed, open conditions, only the smallest gusts of winds can wreak havoc, but it does look like the peloton are going to regain contact. And of course, on these long straight roads, you have your foil in sight, your quarry is there, and it's easy to focus. Despite the strength in front, these guys are relaying very, very well, and it looks like the breakaways' days are numbered now. Yeah, it does so, and it does look as if after that bit of action in the crosswinds that it's all coming back together. So unfortunately for this Garmin Sharp rider, he has hit the deck, and that's Rowan Dennis, the young Aussie, very good prospect for the future. Rode tremendously well in a few stage races last year, so unfortunately for him, in the first stage of the Amgen Tour of California, he's hit the deck, but I think he'll get back on. He's behind the team car, and it does look as if this race is all going to come back together. It certainly does. As we head to the back and just see the rangy figure of Zach Dempster, a very, very good sprinter himself, good all-round rider on the NetApp Enduro team. But the great aerial shot there, it does look as if the gap is, no, it says there 15 seconds. I'll suggest it's more like 10. But Garmin Sharp and NetApp Enduro relaying at the front and now being joined by Giant Shimano and riders from Belkin, all looking after their respective sprinters. And one of the main sprinters who missed that move, of course, was John Degenkolb. He's had an outstanding year so far. Podium in Paris-Roubaix, of course. What an all-round rider, and definitely, well, hardly a prospect for the future because he's got some fantastic results at the moment. But well, it's going to be a danger, as we can see. The skyline of Sacramento in the distance, with only 24.9 kilometers to go. This is a straight run in, but of course we do have a finish circuit. We have 3 laps of 2 miles. A circuit, Brian, you know very well, you've been on the ground there. What's the circuit like technically? It's not too bad because it's 3 lanes wide, so plenty of space, but the speed will be on. It's not too technical. It's you have to judge the finish correctly because it is kind of long, straight finish, 3 lanes wide, and so you have to, you know, get your sprinter in the best possible position, and very difficult to be able to do that. And so, not too technical, big wide roads, and we are expecting a bunch finish. Things changed about 20 kilometres ago because of the crosswinds, but it does look as if it is all coming back together. And Cannondale have done no work whatsoever, and we've seen a lot of strong rides by the Omega Pharma Quick-Step. So have they done too much in that crosswind section? Have they tired themselves out? Mark Cavendish has been riding, while
Peter Sagan has been just kind of sitting in the bunch, and they're committing, you know, 1 or 2 riders towards this chase. But again, it's who's got enough energy left when it comes down to the sprint in the end. Still a bit of a crosswind from the right-hand side, but it does look as if this group in front will be brought back, and maybe we might get a counter-attack. Maybe the teams will keep riding for a sprint finish, because, as I said, we're inside the last 15 miles.
We certainly are, and it's BMC now riding on the front, still relaying, and of course the team of Cannondale looking after the interests of Peter Sagan. Looking very fresh. It didn't look like he was panicking at all, and looks like the junction is going to be made. You can see the wind still coming from the right-hand side, but now there is a little bit more shelter as they come into the built-up area. A bit more foliage, some greenery, so that will shelter the riders a bit, and it's looking like it's only a few seconds now. And of course, Brian, when the lead is almost made, that's when the impetus of the group, people start looking around, they start freewheeling a little bit, and they know that their time is up. But Cavendish is going to be interesting. We never really see him in breakaways. You know, it will possibly affect his finish. I guess he's just going to, when they get caught, what will he do? Will he sit back and relax as best as possible? I mean, he's a remarkably strong rider, so much strength in depth. I mean, you don't take Milan San Remo, of course. He's not just a rider that sits in the wheels, but again, it is going to make for a slightly different sprint, I think.
Yeah, I think he just has to, you know, gather the team, stay near the front, because there's going to be a few tired legs after this exertion at the front for most of these riders, especially in that crosswind. So everybody over the last 20-25 kilometres has made an effort in these crosswinds. So Mark is going well. He had 4 stage wins in the recent Tour of Turkey. Last year he won the British Championships in a breakaway, being away all day. So he's riding strong, but the thing is, the motivation is there. So I would think that he'll recover well. And you know, his team have been riding today in this crosswind section with Team Sky to try and break it up. It hasn't been successful, but I tell you what, it's been exciting over the last half hour. Jens Vogt comes towards the front, mouth open. The junction is not completely made at this moment in time, but by the looks of things, it will be made very shortly. It's
quite interesting to see what's going on in the front. We actually have the audio now. Now the junction has actually been made. You could hear riders shouting. What the worst thing when you're riding at the front, and you'll know this, Brian, when you're riding on the front trying to bring back a gap, is when a rider who's been sitting on for a bit surges through, you know, at completely different speed rather than riding through smoothly. So that's why sometimes you see these kind of gaps appear. But now everybody at 6s and 7s. Is somebody going to make a counter-attack? This is obviously the ideal moment for somebody to go again, but of course not too far to go.
Your answer has just been given. Mark Cavendish just jumped over to the left-hand side. He knows he wants to stay near the front. So your question has been answered. How will Mark feel? And just look as if he's jumped into about 15th, 16th in line because he wants to stay near the front, because he knows that was hard over the last half an hour of racing. That was hard, and he wants to stay near the front. He doesn't want to drift back into the bunch. When there's a lull in the action, as you know, there might be a touch of wheels and you might get a crash. And when there's a lull in the action, you get the counter-attacks, and you know, they're already started to begin.
It is, and it's the figure of Taylor Phinney, followed by Tom Bonan. 2 riders who excelled in the classics this year. Obviously Tom Bonan didn't quite make his 5th Paris-Roubaix, but he's counted again. He was in that move, and 2 of the strongest rouleurs in the peloton have now surged clear and opened up an immediate gap. This, Brian, is very, very interesting indeed. This is exciting stuff. We're going to cut to a commercial break in the moment, so please don't go away. You've got a couple of minutes to get yourself a cup of tea, but come back to see the climax of the Tour of California live here on Eurosport, the home of cycling, of course. Follow us on Twitter. It's at Brian Smithy, Bryce Smithy, or at Real Stevens, using the hashtag Eurosport Cycling or the hashtag ATOC2014. This should be a very exciting finish indeed. Doesn't appear we're going to cut to a break. It does seem as if the wind is playing enough of a part to us to stick with the action, Brian. That wind still coming from the right-hand side and causing all sorts of problems. You can just see by the way that the bunch is strung out and riders struggling at the back, moving around the outside all the time to try and get as much shelter as possible. This is going to be a very interesting finale.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of tired legs when we come into the finishing circuit. It's 3.2 kilometres, and we're going to do 3 laps. A sprint on the finishing line the first time across.
We are going to a commercial break now. Please stay with us. So, welcome back to stage one of the Amgen Tour of California, and it's been action all the way. Straight from the off today, we had a six-man move that stole a lead of 4 minutes, approaching halfway through the course. A couple of the hotspot sprints were taken by that group, and the king of the mountains of the day was taken by William Routley. That six-man move was brought to heel on the foot slopes of the climbs of the day, and on the long flat run into the finish here in Sacramento, we had an elite 18-man group that went clear, including race favourite Sir Bradley Wiggins. Taylor Phinney was also there. Mark Cavendish was there, as was half of his team, including Tom Bonin. But the bunch did eventually become cohesive and started to work together. Garmin Shirt were one of the major teams that missed it. Of course, they're going to be looking after the interests of last year's third overall, Hania Hasevedo, the climber, and of course Peter Sagan missed that move. But Cannondale didn't do too much work. They left it to the other teams. Potentially quite a canny move indeed, playing a game of poker. But as we head into the city centre of Sacramento now, along a long, straight four-lane highway, that group was caught, and now we're getting plenty of counter-attacks. 18.4 kilometres to go. This small group that's just gone clear in the last few moments of 4 riders. We'll get some names in a moment for you, and it's swelling to about 6 riders. Very, very soon the riders will be hitting the finish circuit, which they cover 3 times. Not an overly technical circuit, but there are several corners, some sharp right-angled corners in an L shape, but very, very wide, so the riders can take the corners, hardly even need to brake. 3 laps of 2 miles before we finish in the centre. Previous winners, of course, being Greg Henderson and Ben Swift, and of course Mark Cavendish, who is here today. So this, Brian, is set fair quite possibly for a bit of a sprint fest, but still a lot of aggression in the peloton. Yeah, it's good to see. This is Ben King here for Cannondale. Ed King for Cannondale up towards the front. A couple of riders in here for United Healthcare, Jonathan Clark and Danny Summerhill. They were the riders that went on the attack. The Garmin rider was Ben King. So you've got Ed King and Ben King in this front group, but it just goes to show you, now we have Taylor Phinney of BMC towards the front as well. So he's been very aggressive today, but you know, when we first came in here, we had the 6-rider breakaway, Giant Shimano and Amiga Pharma Quickstep were controlling the peloton. But because of that crosswind section, it's meant that there's a lot of sore legs, a lot of tired bodies now after the last kind of half hour, 45 minutes of racing. So again, this is a time to take control. We are coming in towards Sacramento. This is where you have to take control, because if a group of 6 or 8 riders go away and it's the right combination, then they could go all the way towards the finish. So if you want it to be a sprint finish today, and I would pretty think that Amiga Pharma Quickstep would want that, you have to try and gain control. But as I said, they have been riding hard over the last 15-20 kilometres in the crosswind section. Yeah, of course, there were 4 or 5 riders in that lead group, obviously containing Sir Bradley Wiggins, but notably it was the Amiga Pharma Quickstep team of Mark Cavendish who were there in force, as we see Greg van Avermaet, one of the most aggressive riders in the peloton, attacking. He was one of the riders in that move. Very good to see as well some of the Bissell development team riders. The team run by the son of Eddie Merckx, Axel Merckx, and one of the riders in the breakaway today was young Theo Geoghegan-Hart, the British rider, riding on this Bissell team, 19 years of age, as opposed to the 42.5 years of age of Jens Voigt, who is riding today for Trek Factory Racing. But we're heading towards the finish. None of these groups are particularly sticking yet, Brian. Who are we going to look out for in terms of sprinters, as you see another attack go down the left-hand side? Yeah, we're looking at the sprinters. You would have to say the fastest man from his recent form is Mark Cavendish, 4 stage wins in the Tour of Turkey. So he would have to be the favourite for today's stage. And especially when you look at the lead-out train he's got here, there's some strong riders in there. Mention a few other names. Obviously, Hushoff is here, the Norwegian champion. Goss, we've already seen, he made that front group, so obviously feeling okay. Luke Rowe for Team Sky, Van Poppel, we've seen, was in that front group as well. Peter Sagan, Hoefland, Degenkolb, Van Rensburg, Ken Hansen, don't forget about him. Possibly Scott Thwaites, the British rider, Anderson, and JJ Hadel. JJ Hadel won here in 2007. So 5 stages over the years as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got some good sprinters, and we thought it's going to come down to a sprint, nice and easy stage, but lo and behold, we've had a crosswind section, tired a few legs out, so the sprinters teams will have to try and gain control, but I would think the emphasis would be on Omega Pharma Quickstep because of the 4 stage wins, because Peter Sagan normally comes here. What sort of form is he in? He hasn't raced over the last few weeks, but then again, you don't win 10 stages here in Tour of California without coming here with a plan. And obviously Cannondale being a big sponsor in this part of the world, he'll want to try and do well. So expect to see him, and we're just trying to find him over the other side of the peloton there.
I think the thing with Peter Sagan is the fact he's not a pure sprinter. Although he can win fast, flat bunch sprints, he can get over the climb. So he's possibly got a few more options than some of the pure sprinters in the field, like of course of Mark Cavendish, for example. But yeah, potentially playing quite a canny game, because obviously Cav was out in the wind today a lot, and so was Goss, or notably Goss hardly did a turn. He was leaving it to the Omega Pharma Quick-Step trainers. We see another little breakaway here. Riders aren't giving up, but I think the most significant thing for me apart was how attentive Bradley Wiggins is. He's come into this race. We talk about him a lot, but again, he's a previous Tour de France winner. This race is, he's openly stated that this race, after the Tour de France, is Team Sky's second objective, and Bradley Wiggins does appear to be coming into very, very good form. We've seen flashes of brilliance this year, of course. 9th in Paris-Roubaix, coming into form in Trentino the other week, a race, of course, won by Cadel Evans. So when Brad was climbing very well in that race, and at the weight now, which is crucial for pro riders, a lot of, as well as form and power, weight is something that riders think about. But Bradley Wiggins, as well as all those things, he looks particularly cut and lean on his bike, but riding near the front of ahead of Fez, that says to me he's riding here with an intent. It's not just words at a press conference. He's riding with a man who wants to win this race.
Of course he wants to win. Team Sky have got a big American sponsor, so they've come here with one thing in mind, and that's to win the race with Bradley Wiggins. The 3 riders in front are Kyle Rennan for United Healthcare, Jacob Rath for the American team, Gregory Daniel also in there.
So we're approaching the finish circuit on stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California, the 9th edition of the Tour of the Golden State. We have 3 riders that are just going clear. Earlier on in the race, we had 6 riders that made the break of the day, that got a lead of around 4 minutes midway through the race. But it wasn't long before their lead was eaten away by a very, very fast-moving peloton that actually split in the crosswind section on the approach, the southwest approach to Sacramento, and it was an elite group that broke clear, including Mark Cavendish, Tom Bonan, Mark Renshaw, Matteo Trentin, Bradley Wiggins, Luke Rowe, Taylor Phinney, Greg Van Avermaet, amongst others. But the bunch did sense danger. There were 1 or 2 of the main protagonists or sprinters that missed that. So, and one of the main teams that missed it, of course, was Garmin Sharp. So eventually, and it took a bit of time, Brian, didn't it? They got 45 seconds at one point. It looked like it was curtains for the bunch, but they eventually brought it back, and we're heading into the finish now with a small group that's just gone clear. It looks like 3 of the American teams. Looks like a Bissell rider is there and a United Healthcare rider too, but the bunch are in close attendance, and it does look at the moment like this is set fair for a sprint finish.
Yeah, it does look that way. We were thinking somewhat different about half an hour ago with the crosswinds, but the Bissell rider is Gregory Daniel. Jacob Rath is the rider, or Rathe is a rider from at the back for Jelly Belly. And at the front, United Healthcare have got Rynan. So these riders have a slender advantage, and I would think looking at the front of the peloton, the sprinters teams would be coming towards the fronts, and as we say that, it does look as if Omega Pharma have got their breath back and have come to the front of the bunch to try and control things as we start heading towards downtown Sacramento.
You say getting your breath back, because if you have joined us late and are just getting our pictures now, Omega Pharma Quickstep managed to infiltrate that move with 5 riders, and it was essentially Mark Cavendish's lead-out train and Tom Bonan in that move, powering along. I think 2 of the riders that spent most of the time, or 3 of the riders that spent most of the time in the win, was Taylor Phinney, Tom Bonan and Sir Bradley Wiggins, and it won't be long before we're actually on the circuit itself. Of course, 3 laps of 2 miles. Ranjan Wraith, who was with Garmin last year, had a couple, 3 years on Garmin before coming across to their Jelly Belly team. Of course, Jelly Belly, one of the teams that's been around the longest in America. I think, Brian, they've been around for the last 10 years, one of the longest serving teams on the US circuit. But the US scene is pretty good at the moment. They do have around 8 or 9 continental teams, and obviously four are riding here in this race. And of course, they're allowed to. It is a 2-point HC, and it is an American race. Although it's a one below World Tour, it does mean that some of the smaller teams can ride. And to be fair to them, they've been in the action all day, and at the sharp end of the race, aren't afraid to get stuck in at all.
No, it's good to see, and a lot of the American teams have got a lot of good races. And in fact, many of them rode the Tour of Gila. I think it was last week, a good preparation race, nice and hilly race before the Tour of California. So there's a lot of good racing here in North America, enough for, as you say, 9 continental third division teams to have, and it's great to see. I spent a couple of years in the States racing, great racing scene. The emphasis was in criteriums, but I think it's been shifted over what's slightly in the last few years to more road racing. We see from the US Pro Challenge, Utah, you know, Elk Grove is coming up, so there's a lot of good races now in the North America.
Well, that's not good news. Sorry to cut across you there, Brian. Not good news for Mark Renshaw. Only 6.8 miles to go, and it looks like he had a rear puncture. Looked particularly cheesed off there, getting a spare wheel. It's going to be difficult for him to chase and get back in, but if there's anybody that can ride at high speed towards the back end of a race, it certainly will be Mark Renshaw, but that certainly will impact on his ability to possibly lead out Mark Cavendish. But of course, he's still got Boonen there, Matteo Trentin, of course, Van Kilsbroek, Nicky Terpstra. So the team, it'll certainly miss him, but a very, very inopportune moment, and we will soon be passing through the finish line, where we'll face 3 more laps of what is essentially an L-shaped circuit, but very, very, although it's quite technical, a lot of right-hand corners, it's very, very wide, so particularly safe, and you can hit these corners pretty much at full pelt without even really hardly needing to brake one. I mean, you know the circuit yourself, you've stood on the circuit and seen what it's like, and here we are coming down the finish straight now, nice and wide, so we'll provide for a absolutely fantastic spectacle should these riders get caught, but riding very, very well at the moment.
Just coming across the line to take the last sprint of the day, and that was Gregory Daniel. So 3, 2 and 1 seconds on the finishing line there. But now in the front of the peloton, we're starting to see some of the teams come towards the front, but noticeably on the left-hand side, Omega Pharma Quick Step have got the train together.
So 3 laps to go of stage 1 of the Amgen Tour of California, a tour of the Golden State, and it's been some golden racing today. We have 3 laps now to go. Only 2 miles, an L-shaped circuit. We had a breakaway earlier in the race. 6 riders went clear. Took 4 minutes at one point before they were brought back by the peloton. And then an elite group of around 18 to 20 riders went clear on the run into Sacramento in the crosswinds, and the break was forced by the power and the might of the Omega Pharma Quick Step team. Tom Boonen was there, Mark Renshaw was there, Mark Cavendish was there as well, as was Matteo Trentin, and of course Bradley Wiggins was there along with Taylor Phinney, but that was brought back. There was a few danger men that missed it, notably John Degenkolb, the German sprinter from Giant Shimano, and of course Peter Sagan, the Slovak champion, and arguably one of the most multi-talented riders on the circuit. And he's only still very young, and of course has won 10 stages of this race. But altogether now it's been an action-packed stage, but these riders still attacking and going clear. But it does look like, well, Omega Pharma Quick Step, they've lost for the time being Mark Renshaw, but Omega Pharma Quick Step amassing at the front, and I've no doubt will soon be joined by the other sprinters team too, Brian.
Yeah, interesting enough that we went through that sprint point there onto the lap for the first time across the finishing line, and United Healthcare rider Ryan just decided, well, you can have the bonus seconds, but I'm going to try and take the stage, and he's left the others behind him. He's just ridden them off the wheel, and he's like a man possessed at this moment in time. So, you know, United Healthcare, a big, you know, American sponsor, American team here, a second division team. So he's got a very good gap. I can only think that Omega Pharma Quick Step, I've seen that Mark Renshaw have punctured. I don't want to kind of go full gas in this finishing circuit. Hopefully, Renshaw could possibly make it back to the front. But this man is riding like a man possessed at this moment.
He certainly is. As I was talking about what had happened earlier in the day, Carl Reinion actually stormed round that corner and opened up a tremendous tremendous gap and has opened up a gap now of 10 seconds on the peloton. We've got a nice aerial shot there. And it looks like the Cannondale riders are near the front, looking after the interests, of course, of Peter Sagan. But this is quite a wide... Oh, there we go, some stats for Kyle there. Very, very talented young bike rider. And, of course, United Healthcare. They ride at pro-continental level, and that was the Kenda semicircle tyre. That denotes 1 kilometre to go, so make a note of that. We're still going to have, when we pass through the finish next time, there'll be 2 full circuits to go. And of course, it's only 2 miles round, so we only have around 10 minutes of racing, and he's still holding a 10-second lead. But of course, on the line, we have a 10, well, for first across the line on the stage, we have a 10-second time bonus for first, and then 6 seconds for second and 4 seconds for third place. And there are time bonuses on all stages, aside from the 2 mountaintop finishes we have later in the race, and of course the individual time trial tomorrow. But at the moment, it's this young man, Carl Rogen, who's forging ahead, his mouth agape, gulping in air, getting as airy as he can, being urged along by this tremendous crowd. And this, of course, the state capital of California, Sacramento. So the ideal place to start the race, but a rapturous applause in baking sunshine. This is going to be a superb finish, but Cannondale are now amassing at the front in the service of Peter Sagan.
Yeah, I was just looking at the front of the peloton. I think I managed to see Mark Renshaw possibly has made it back to the front for Omega Pharma Quick-Step, but it's on the left-hand side, the lime green of Cannondale, starting to get the lead-out train in order for Peter Sagan. But this man, Ryan, the American 27-year-old, is still out front by about 10 seconds. He has ridden, obviously, in the States a few years ago for Jelly Belly, so he knows these type of circuit races that they have in this part of the world. A couple of years with Team Type 1, but over the last 2 years has ridden for United Healthcare at pro-continental level, second division level. But again, riding like a man possessed, but I think his sponsors will be absolutely loving this.
Well, he's now got a complete straight ahead. It looks like he's opening up this lead. This is a tremendous effort by the young American rider. Getting on the drops, he'll be maxed out. He will be absolutely giving it everything now. Obviously being cheered on by this crowd, and he does seem to be pulling away. 3.9 miles to go, 15 seconds now. He did have 10 seconds going through the finish, has opened it up. He does have the luxury of one of those entire straights ahead, to be ahead of the other riders, so out of sight and out of mind. And this young man is racing the race of his life at the moment. Fantastic stuff. 20 seconds now, his lead. So with 1.5 laps to go of this 2-mile finishing circuit in Sacramento, the finish of stage 1 of the Tour of California, the Amgen Tour of California, in its ninth running. We have Carl Ryan of the USA riding on the United Healthcare team with a 20-second lead. He attacked on the run into the circuit with 2 other breakaway compatriots that he soon dispensed with. And now it's Cannondale that are chasing. Team Sky in close attendance. No standout sprinter, of course, for Team Sky here, but Luke Rowe can finish well. But I think they're just looking after the interests of Sir Bradley Wiggins, who's got an eye on the overall and staying out of trouble at all. And we have, of course, a absolutely fantastic roster of sprinters here. We have, of course, Mark Cavendish. Tom Bonin isn't a mean finisher, Brian, of course. We have Danny Van Poppel, who had a puncture earlier on in the race, was in a breakaway. We have Matt Goss, a previous winner, of course, of Milan-San Remo. We have Peter Sagan, Lars Baum, Reno Hofland from Belkin Pro Cycling, John Degenkolb from Team Giant Shimano, and the young South African on the same team, Jansi van Rensburg as well. Himself a winner of several races at the back end of last season, and a very, very good lead-out rider. Some outsiders, Kev Hansen from United Healthcare, Scott Thwaite, a very, very fast-finishing youngster from Team NetApp Endura, and of course Juan Jose Haydó, the Argentinian, the only Argentinian rider in this field, but vastly experienced, with 5 stage wins under his belt. And then Freddy Rodriguez, a bit of another outsider, 40 years of age, but the current United States road race champion. But at the moment, it's this young man, Brian.
Yeah, only 4 kilometres to go. This is a brave effort by Ryan and the United Healthcare rider. He started the season over in Europe, rode quite a few races. And in fact, one of the races he rode was the Flèche Wallonne only a couple of weeks ago. But he came back to ride the Tour of the Gila, finished 22nd in that just last week, so a good preparation race. But just as we say that, he comes on to the finishing straight, and the peloton are really starting to move now. It does look as if this gap is down to about 10 seconds.
We've got 10 seconds on the monitor there, but I think it's a little bit less than that. He's been riding out of his skin, but once the peloton turn on the gas, when you've been out on your own for that long, there's only so far that you can ride at that sort of tempo. He's now starting to rock his shoulders. His skin suit is unzipped. He looks under his shoulders. He knows his time is up. But what a very, very brave ride by this young man. His sponsor will be very, very proud. We have 1 lap to go now of this 2-mile finishing circuit. It's all over for this young man, but what a very, very brave ride by Carl Reinian from America. But now we head with 1 lap to go. Who will it be? This is going to be a very, very exciting finish. 2.6 miles is all we have to the finish of stage 1 of the 9th running of the Amgen Tour of California. So 4 kilometers to go now for the bunch. It's all together now. We've had a series and a flurry of attacks. The last one being from Kyle Reinian of United Healthcare. Stayed out in front for a couple of laps of this finishing circuit. It's quite a flowing finishing circuit, very, very wide, although there are a number of right-angled corners. As you can see, it's the sort of corner that you can take at speed. You might need to just feather your brakes, but it is a very, very fast circuit and does suit teams riding on the front. And at the moment, it's Cannondale riding for Peter Sagan without a shadow of a doubt. But will we see Omega Pharma Quick-Step move up late? What we've seen this year, Brian, especially, is teams leaving it very, very late for the lead-out train, and that makes for some quite dangerous and exciting racing. And there we go. It's Omega Pharma Quick-Step who've taken up the mantle, and there's not long to go now.
Yeah, there's a lot of the teams leave it late now because you can only go at 50, 55 k's an hour for about 500 meters, some of these riders, so you can't really put too many riders towards the front too early. It was left to Cannondale on the last lap, but now Omega Pharma Quick-Step decided, right, enough is enough. Cannondale missed out in the crosswind sections, but they're still in with a chance with Peter Sagan for the stage win here, and also Giant Shimano helped out at the front now.
So it is Omega Pharma Quick-Step who are taking it up now with 1 mile to go, 1.9 kilometers, and they're amassed at the front. 4 riders there. It looks like the figure of Matteo Trentin, the Italian himself, a mean sprinter, took out the stage, of course, if you remember back last year in the Tour de France. It looks like Guillaume van Killsbrook is also there. Tom Boonen isn't far away, and not far down the line. We just saw the dappled shade there. It was difficult to pick riders out, but Mark Cavendish, resplendent, of course, in his white British national championship jersey. He'll be there looking for a stage win, but Mark's had a different day today. He's been out in the breakaway with ex-teammate and obviously Tour de France champion Bradley Wiggins, but at the moment Omega Pharma Quick-Step have taken it up for the first 2 laps of the finishing circuit. We had a breakaway and it was Cannondale who led the chase, but now with 1.4 kilometers to go, Matteo Trentin looks over his shoulder, swings off. His job is now done, and it looks like the figure of Tom Boonen who takes the front.
It's actually the Paris-Roubaix winner with 1 kilometre to go. It's Nicky Terpstra comes towards the front, and Nicky Terpstra missed out in the crosswind section, so he comes to the front. But you can just see him looking round, Matt. He's wanted to see where his other teammates are, haven't fully committed, and now it's over to Giant Shimano with John Degenkolb sitting in 4th place.
So Giant Shimano now take it up at the front, and they're forcing it now, absolutely riding flat out. They're not just riding on the front, the ride on the front now will be absolutely sprinting flat out, going so fast, in fact, it's gapped the second place rider. This is going to be an absolutely rip-roaring finale as the camera spins off, and it's still Team Argos Giant Shimano on the front. We only have 300 meters to go, and it's Mark Renshaw who takes the front, Cavendish in the middle there, but it looks like John Degenkolb in the middle now, but Cavendish comes round on the right-hand side, it's Degenkolb in the middle, Cavendish on the right, nice and low, and Cavendish goes on the left-hand side. Can he get round John Degenkolb? Degenkolb was there, but it's Mark Cavendish. Oh, that was tight, couldn't call that one. Was it John Degenkolb or was it Mark Cavendish? They look across at each other. That's going to go down to a photo finish. Peter Sagan wasn't very far away, but it was after the efforts of Amiga Pharma Quickstep in the final kilometres. As you say, Brian, Nicky Terpstra took it up. It was then Mark Renshaw, but the road was so wide it gave various options. We'll have to go and see what the photo finish said, but what an exciting sprint. It looks like Degenkolb may have got it, but if he did, it was only by the width of a tyre. Very, very close indeed. Let's look at the slow motion.
Well, hard to call this, and it was Degenkolb that led out from about 200 metres. Sagan is also up there, but it doesn't have the power. Mark Cavendish comes up the right-hand side, and then it just becomes a who's got enough energy left to try and take the win. Mark Cavendish comes up almost alongside now, and the two of them throw their bike. For me, I think it's Mark Cavendish who's got the stage win. So very close in the end. We'll wait for confirmation on that, but it does look as if the British champion has won his first stage here. Last one here in 2010, and it looks as if he's won here in 2014.
It certainly does. The area was shot there. It was difficult. Cav didn't know. Degenkolb looked across, but that was an absolute Van Poppel in the mix there. But at this point, Sagan knows it's over. But despite a late lunge by the German sprinter, the German powerhouse John Degenkolb, of course, up there in Paris-Roubaix this year, it looked like Mark Cavendish will hopefully get confirmation. But